Welcome to the GridML training videos. In this video I'm going to show you step by step how to use the GridML search option. So let's jump right into it. The first thing we'll do is bring up our browser screen, type in gridml.com, and first I wanted to point out that on the main screen of GridML there's a tab here that says Schema Search, and this basically gives a quick on-screen tutorial showing you some of the things you can do with search. But in this video I'm actually going to take you through it. So we'll click on user sign in, and that's going to load up whatever schema I already have or last used from my schema repository that I've stored within GridML. The one that comes up here that I've been using is the MISMO, which is a mortgage industry schema, specifically for the loan application dataset, ILAD. And this is a good one to show some of the features of GridML. It's for those of you who are not familiar with the schema, don't worry about it, but I brought it up because it's a medium size in size and in complexity, has thousands of data points within it, so it's a good one to go through. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the search option, and that brings up a search bar at the top, which is you'll see in typical things. And let's search on score. So I'm going to type in score. Notice as I type in each letter, it's showing the results of its search as I type in each letter. Right now it's saying with the letters SCOR, there's 142 results. If I type in SCORE, it shows 138, and as I keep typing in, it narrows the search based on whatever I've typed in. It's searching through the entire schema through the thousands of data points, and it's extremely fast. So anyway, the first thing I wanted to show you, with just typing in the word score, it says that within the MISMO schema, it's found 138 matches for the word score, 14 matches within containers, meaning elements that contain other elements, 40 data points, 42 in enumerated values, and 42 types. To narrow that down, I'm going to show you, you can uncheck some of these boxes. So if we don't want to see the types, we can uncheck that. If we uncheck enumerated values, and if we only wanted to see containers at the beginning, this is a list of the 14 containers that have the word score in it. So we have credit score provider detail. This letter C here indicates that these are containers, meaning that they contain other data elements or other data containers within it. If we pick on one of them, if we click on score, it's showing that within the model it appears in 11 different locations, and this particular data element has 7 children with it. 4 of them are a sequence of other data containers, and then there's also 3 attributes that the credit score element can have. In the far right column, when I click on credit score, it shows this is information specific about the credit score element. This is its definition. This is the minimum number of times it can occur within the parent location that it's looking at. The maximum number of times it can occur is unbounded, meaning that the credit score element within the MISMO schema, the way it's defined, it can occur an unlimited number of times. Some schemas you may see this max occurs may define it as, say, something like 5, which means that the maximum times credit score can occur within a MISMO or within a schema might be 5, but in the MISMO reference model, it's defined as unbounded. This namespace here means that it's defined by the MISMO organization, which is the Mortgage Industry Standards organization, and it's part of their residential 2009 specifications. The type here shows that it's of the credit score type, and we'll get into that a little bit more. That's referring to, so in other words, if we clicked on this box here and uncheck this, it shows that we have here's a credit score type, and that's just in the schema there you have element names, but then they're defined as a type of element. For those of you who are more technically oriented, you'll understand what that means. If you're business oriented, don't worry about it. So anyway, we have the 14 containers here and defined. If we wanted to look at data points, let's click on data points, and here are 40 data points that have the word score within it. If we pick on one of them, let's say credit score value, this is a value that people who are concerned, if they're buying a home, they want to know what their credit score is, or you see advertisements on TV, and that's what this particular data element is. So let's look at that. Notice when we click on it, in the far right column, it shows the definition, the numeric credit score resulting from a credit evaluation model. And there's more information about it that we had discussed before. It's defined as a MISMO value, that's the type, and that type is based on something called MISMO value base. It's a string and can be any simple type. So those are more for technical users. It gives more information about that. But let's look at some of the other information that shows up here. This is saying that the credit score values appears 11 times within the MISMO model. It appears once under the parties element, the parties child of deal, and it appears 10 times under services. Let's click on parties. Click on that little arrow thing there, and notice it drops down and shows that in that one time, it appears within the party element, roles, role, borrower. It shows the path of the data through the model, and finally it appears under credit score value. So notice that it shows one time here, but it has a bunch of little diamond symbols, and what this first one means here is it means to get to the actual location where credit score value is, you have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 levels. If we click on this, since it only appears once, it shows you what the 9 levels are. And notice as we get closer in credit score, it's down 2 levels. So we go down credit score detail, means the data point is 1 level below this, and here it is, credit score value. Credit score value has a number of attributes. And there's definitions for each of these that appear. If I click on the algorithm URI, it's an optional element, and it defines the algorithm used to calculate this particular credit score value. If we go over, notice under parties, it appeared one time. If we go into services, it says it appears 10 times within there. Under service, it appears 10 times, and it shows the number of levels down that this value will be. So under credit, there's a number of services here. There's credit service, a flood service, mortgage insurance service, title and valuation. If we click on credit, it appears in the credit response 3 times, and within credit response, it can appear in credit files 1 time, credit scores 1 time, and under parties 1 time. Let's go into credit scores, and it shows its credit score detail and so on. So this data element, credit score value, can appear a number of times within any of these. And if we were looking for under the title, meaning the property title, under title products, it appears in the title commitment. That's the location of it. Under title policies, it's also used 1 time, and so on. So this gives a little bit of basic information. If we go back up here to the top and we click enumerations, what an enumeration is our values, like for example under the credit score type, let's actually bring that one up again so we can see what that means. We'll go under here into data points, and let's look for credit score Let's do this one, credit score category type. And if we look at the definition of credit score category type, it has these values here, which are enumerated values. So here's bankruptcy, credit repository, FICO, thin file, Vantage. So those are different enumerated values that are allowed under the credit score category type. But if we go back up here and go, well, let's uncheck that and see the enumerations, these enumerated values that contain that. And here's one, let's say Equifax Vantage Score. If we click on that, this will show that it's used in one component, the credit score model name type. And if we click on that, these are the locations where credit score model name type appears. So as we do our search, it's showing, if we click on parties, it shows that it appears under the borrower, credit scores, credit score detail, credit score name type. And if we click over to the right here, these are all the possible enumerated values. And notice anywhere where the word score appears, whether it's in a definition or in the name, that'll be highlighted in that kind of tan color. So these are the list of enumerated values, and the original one we were looking for was Equifax Vantage Score. And if we look in here, we'll probably find Equifax. There it is. There's Experian Vantage Score, and here is Equifax Vantage Score, the original one we had searched for. So the search option, there's all kinds of things that you can search for in here, and these checkboxes here allow you to narrow down your search to depending on what, because it can find so many things, that allows you to narrow down the search to be more specific in what you're looking for. Another type you can of search you can do in here, there's notice when we click on any particular container name, let's pick one of these and go mortgage score. Notice that one of the things I wanted to show you is mortgage score has a namespace, meaning this particular data point is defined by the MISMO organization. But some schemas, like this ILAD schema, can contain multiple types of data within it. It can have MISMO data, but it could also contain, this particular ILAD schema also has desktop underwriter data, and the abbreviation for that is DU. And if we type in DU:, that's the short for a namespace prefix. In other words, a shortened version of a namespace. And what this is saying, if I type in DU:, it's saying that this MISMO schema has 29 either containers, data points, or types that are defined by Desktop Underwriter, which is a Fannie Mae product. If we look and type in LPA:, this ILAD schema also has LPA, which is Loan Product Advisor, and LPA is the shortened version of that namespace. If we click on any of these and bring up a data point, this asset document date, notice it has the letters LPA: in front of it, and that means that this is a LPA defined data point. And if we look over here to the right hand side and look at the namespace, it's defined as www data model extension schema LPA. In other words, this data point is defined as a data extension LPA, or Loan Product Advisor. And that's what all of these are. If we wanted to look at only like we did before, if we only wanted to see the container names, the data containers that were defined by Freddie Mac for Loan Product Advisor, we would show it here. If we wanted another one, there's this specification also has data specific to the Uniform Loan Application Dataset. The shorthand version of that is ULAD and if we type the colon after it, means show us all the data elements that have a namespace prefix of ULAD in front of it. And we can see we have 9 containers, 16 data points, 13 types. If we look at one of those, just the data points, these are ULAD specific data points. In other words, they're defined under the ULAD namespace. If we click on one of these, we'll see that its namespace is data model extension schema ULAD. Shows that name out there. And just like we did before, once we have an item, this shows that it's located in 2 places, either an assets element or a collaterals element. So let's click on assets, and it appeared one time there, and when I click on that, it goes directly to that location. If it appeared more than one time, it would allow me to choose which one I want, but since it's only one location, it goes straight to it. It appears in the data model under assets, asset detail, and it goes into a MISMO extension, other, and then a element underneath it called asset detail extension, and there's the full name. There's its ULAD definition as defined by that working group within MISMO. It's defined as an indicator, and then more information about it. So that gives a quick thing. Another thing that I wanted to show you is if you the basic free version of GridML only allows you to have one schema loaded at a time. If you have any of the pay versions, you can go into setup and you can bring up another schema, and you can do searches on multiple schemas at the same time. I'm just going to bring up one additional one. I have a folder, that a repository that I've created called MISMO 3 schemas, and I'm going to bring up a draft version of the MISMO 3.6 schema and then go back to search. And now notice here I have 2 tabs, one for the original ILAD and one for MISMO schema here, and I'm going to type in let's do search in a common term used in the mortgage industry is front-end ratio. And notice it's a commonly used term, but it's kind of a slang term, but it's commonly used. And notice it didn't find any results for that either in the ILAD schema or in the MISMO schema. But GridML has a checkbox on here that you can say, well, don't just search for names, data element names or enumerated names or data point names. Include definitions in the search. And when I click on that box, notice it immediately found that within the ILAD schema it found 1 result, and within the MISMO 3.6 schema it found 1 result. And if we click on that data point, it found, notice here is it found a data point called housing expense ratio %, and notice front-end ratio is highlighted because this data point is defined in the MISMO mortgage data model as the name housing expense ratio % with this definition, and the definition says, well, it's also known as front-end ratio. There's also a term, if I'm going to go up here and change my search slightly, there's a term called back-end ratio. And if I have this box selected, notice it also found it under there, except the back-end ratio is the official term for that is called total debt expense ratio %. So that's the thing. So I just wanted to show you that sometimes if you don't get any search results based on where it's not found as a data point name or container, click this checkbox, because sometimes the term you're looking for may appear in a definition, and then you'll be able to find what data points use that term in its definition. So there's a lot to show here. The other thing I wanted to point out is, notice there's a checkbox down here says show the prefix for the target namespace. For those who are technical users, you'll have worked with schemas before that you know that you can also define a target namespace. And normally this does not, target namespace can either be used or not used. In this case, because it increases the length of it, notice if I say show the target namespace, for most data elements the target namespace is Mismo. And notice now that I've checked that, notice that this prefix name Mismo appears all throughout here. And if I go ahead and check a name, let's go down all the way to the end of where this is located. So notice it built a path down here, and notice that the word Mismo appears in all of these. So it can make the names quite long here. But if we don't want to show the target namespace, we can just eliminate that, and then when we show the path names, it will show the path but without the Mismo prefix in there, because it's, if that's the most commonly used namespace, you won't need to show it in the results. So I know I went through a lot here. Hopefully I didn't make it more confusing, but I just wanted to show you that some of the search capabilities that are within here. Oh, one last thing. If you're on here, when you're searching, it assumes you're looking for something specific. But once you're in that area, like say qualification, if you wanted to be able to go to the view mode, which we've had another video on, notice now it's highlighted view up here, and this allows you to go back into the browse mode where you can just go and view anything you want just by clicking on it. So that's another thing we'll show you. Once you're in the search mode, you can switch to the view mode just by clicking on that go to view thing that appears. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you very much, and look for our other videos for more information on GridML. Thank you.